friends. Welcome back to the Traffic Jam podcast. I'm Cameron, and you can call me Cam. So before we jump into today's episode, I just wanted to share with you guys some exciting news. This week I started shadowing at the dental office that I will be working at full time once I get my dental hygiene license. So I'm still waiting on my license. The status is pending, and waiting for it is painful. But I am really looking forward to working at this dental office, and they gave me the opportunity to come in and start shadowing for a couple days this week. I got to watch the dental hygienists and meet everyone that's working there. I got to kind of see the process and flow of how they see patients, and it's just, that was really helpful to observe because every office is different in the way that they do things. And so I'm looking forward to getting started and excited that I'll have a little bit of experience in the office, kind of see how they run things so that I am ready when I can start actually doing hygiene. So that is a positive and exciting thing that happened this week. But of course, we need to do the traffic jam of the week. If you missed it in the first episode, every week at the beginning of the episode, I'll share a traffic jam of the week. Just kind of something negative that happened, something that I want to complain about. And as more episodes come out and I get more submissions on your guys' traffic jams of the week, I will share those at the beginning of episodes as well as mine if I have any. So this week, my traffic jam or negative thing that happened is that there are bugs in my apartment. And if you know me, you know that, aside from traffic, there really is not anything that irks me more than bugs. I know there's purpose to bugs. Everyone says that insects are beneficial in some way to nature and life, I guess. I find that very hard to believe. I just can't stand them. They give me the creepy crawlies. I get goosebumps just thinking about it, and I feel like they're on me. I am absolutely terrified of spiders. I dislike every bug, but spiders, there's a special place in hell for spiders. I hate them so much. So when we first moved in, we live on the first floor of an apartment building, and I was hopeful actually that we wouldn't see very many bugs because the apartment in Idaho that we lived in was actually a basement apartment, and we had tons of spiders, and we would spray all the time. We had sticky traps out. It was just, there were cracks and crevices in so many places in this old apartment that we lived in the basement that critters could get in. And so I was excited to move into this newer apartment on ground level and hopefully have less bugs. And that is not the case. There have been many spiders, like those brown recluse spiders. Adam says that I call every spider a brown recluse, but that is what they look like. They're like not as big as garden spiders, but not small like jumping spiders. They're like, oh my gosh, I can't even talk about it. Anyway, they're brown and they have super long legs, and oh my gosh, I can't even talk about it. Anyway, we've seen so many of them. And we've also seen this weird bug. I I don't know what it is. I've never seen them before, but they're like these centipede things, but they have like long antennas in the front of their head, and when they crawl so fast, and they like wiggle like a snake. So like we've had I don't know, maybe like 3 or 4 or 5 that we've seen in our bedroom, like on the walls, and they're disgusting. They'll like crawl so fast, and I feel like, because one blessing that has come from my fear of bugs is my ability to see them. I can spot them from a mile away. I can see a bug anywhere, even in the dark. I know that they're there. So like I am a pro at finding spiders. I'm just not a pro at killing them. I will not kill them. Not because I care about them at all, but because I feel like if I get close to them at all, they will sense my fear and they will jump onto me and eat me. Or I just don't want them anywhere close to me. So I refuse to kill them. Anyway, we went and bought bug spray at the store. We got sticky traps again. At this point, I'm a pro at putting them together. And we sprayed the whole apartment. We put the traps in every room. And we've still seen them quite a bit. I'd say maybe more than half of them, we've found them dead now, which is good, but they're still there. I have no idea where they're coming from. And there are dead spiders in the traps, and it just gives me the shivers. Yesterday, I was really excited because I got an email from our apartment complex saying that there was an insect guy that was coming to every apartment to spray them. And I thought, okay, if we can get like a professional person to come spray, then maybe we won't have this problem. So excited. I made sure that I was home during the time that they said he would be there so that I could make sure that he sprayed. And then no one ever came. So that's kind of a letdown. I emailed the apartment people today since the guy never came yesterday, and I said, are you sure they came? Could they come back? No one came to our apartment. We have a lot of bugs. So hopefully I'll hear back from them, because that's my traffic jam. I cannot stand bugs. And especially bugs being in your home. Like, bugs outside are gross and freaky anyway, but in the place that you live, in the safety of your own home, that is just terrifying. This is a side note here, but speaking of bugs outside, that is honestly what kept me from going to girls' camp when I was younger. From when I was 12 to 17, I would go with my church group to girls' camp every summer, or was supposed to at least. And I think I only went maybe 3 or 4 times, so maybe like half of the time that I should have gone. And it was because I hate camping. I don't know why people camp. I really have tried it a couple times. My family never really camped growing up, and Adam and I have gone once or twice, and it's not for me. So if you're one of those that is not a camper, I'm with you. Sorry to say it, but girls' camp is not it. Or I should say camping is not it. Why would you go camp and sleep on the ground outside when you could go to a hotel or a restaurant? Okay, enough with the complaining here. Let's move on to what our episode is about today. Today we're going to talk about the Enneagram. And I talked about this a little bit in the first episode and kind of just shared what Enneagram type I am and why I like it. And so today we're going to go more in depth about it. We're going to talk about each of the 9 types and how you can determine what Enneagram type you are. And I've been super excited to record this episode. So let's just get into it. You can search Enneagram quiz, or you can just listen to this episode and the type descriptions and kind of determine what type you are. Sometimes people like to take the quiz and that's how they find an idea of what their type is, but really the best way to determine which one you are is to just research and learn about the qualities of each of the types and then kind of just decide what resonates the most with you. So there are 9 Enneagram types. Like I said, they're personality types. So pretty much everyone has one dominant type. The Enneagram Institute has a really good explanation about kind of basic things you need to know about all of the types. So a lot of the stuff that I learned comes from the Enneagram Institute. So on their website, they say people do not change from one personality type to another. So normally you're just one type. That's your basic type. They apply equally to males and females. And also, this is important to remember, not everything in the description of your dominant type will apply to you all the time because you're constantly fluctuating among the healthy, average, and unhealthy traits that make up your personality type. So remember this as we're kind of going through the types, that maybe not every part of the type you'll resonate with, but the core fears and core desires of the types are really what you want to look for here. This is another thing I learned about the Enneagram that I did not know before. The Enneagram actually uses numbers to designate each of the types because they feel that number values are neutral. So the numbers imply a whole range of attitudes and behaviors of each type without specifying anything that's positive or negative. So unlike labels used in psychiatry, the Enneagram numbers provide an unbiased shorthand way of indicating a lot about a person without showing any kind of disapproval. Just keep that in mind, that no type is better or worse than any other. All the personality types have unique assets and also unique liabilities. So the ideal is to become your best self, not to imitate the assets of any other type. So we'll go ahead and jump into talking about each of the types. While I'm describing these types, think about which one sounds like you most of the time. So kind of like I said before, your core fears and your core desires. And if you are interested in more resources on this, I follow Enneagram Ashton on Instagram, and she has some really good descriptions of each of the types and just kind of interesting and fun things about each of them that are really relatable to your type once you kind of figure out what you are. Type 1. Type 1 is the reformer. So type 1s are principled, organized, and they're also known as perfectionists. Type 1s are rule followers. They have a strong sense of right and wrong. They're super passionate about doing the right thing. So 1s are always striving to improve things, but they're also afraid of making a mistake. And 1s usually are the people to ask, why don't people follow the rules? The Enneagram Type 2 is known as the helper. Type 2s are generous, caring, and empathetic. They're people pleasers. So the 2's core fear is not being loved or wanted. So 2s passionately pursue making other people feel good, and they struggle with saying no. And type 2s are usually the ones to say, what can I do to help? The type 3 is known as the achiever. So type 3s are adaptable, excelling, driven, and image conscious. Type 3s are focused on success, so their core desire is to feel valuable and respected. 3s passionately pursue success and being good at what they do. 3s also struggle with slowing down. Instead, they say, what do I have to do today? Enneagram Type 4s are known as the individualist. So Type 4s are expressive, passionate, creative, and they're really focused on aesthetics. So their core fear, the core fear of a 4 is being flawed or not being seen. 4s passionately pursue exploring their emotions and feelings, so they're really into how they feel. And 4s ask, how can I create meaning from this? A type 5 is known as the investigator. So type 5s are perceptive, they're innovative, and they're very analytical. 5s are focused on gaining knowledge. They want to learn everything they can about different subjects. 5s passionately pursue learning and becoming an expert. 5s struggle with communicating their needs to others, and their core fear really is being incompetent. And that's why they research things and want to know more, is because they want to be competent or appear to be competent. And you usually will hear a 5 saying, I want to learn more about this. The Enneagram type 6 is called the loyalist. Type 6s are engaging, responsible, and they're reliable. Type 6s are always prepared. Something that's really important to type 6s is being loyal to their people. 6s are afraid of fear itself or uncertainty. And so the main question that 6s are usually found asking is, what could go wrong? The Enneagram type 7 is known as the enthusiast. So type 7s are spontaneous, versatile, they're fun-loving, and they're curious. So 7s passionately pursue finding joy and coming across new experiences. Their core fear is missing out or being trapped in pain. So they want to be a part of and involved in everything they can. A little bit of FOMO with the type 7. Type 7 struggle with staying focused, and they're usually the ones that are asking, how do I put a positive spin on this? Type 8 is called the challenger. So type 8s are very self-confident, they're decisive, and they're also confrontational. Type 8s are passionate about the things that they believe. They're very honest, and they'll tell you something straight up. And type 8s are also protective. So what they're passionately pursuing is justice and creating change. So if there's something that they don't agree with, then they are not afraid to stand up and share their opinion about the subject. Type 8s do struggle with asking for help. They want to be able to show that they can do everything on their own. And 8s are afraid of being seen as weak or vulnerable. So that's why they struggle with asking for help. And the thing that you will hear 8s say the most is no. Lastly, we have type 9. The Enneagram type 9 is known as the peacemaker. Type 9s are receptive, they're reassuring, easygoing, and supportive. Type 9s passionately pursue peace and seeing all sides. Type 9s do not like dealing with conflict. They want to be the peacemaker. They want to really avoid conflict. 9s are afraid of being loveless or abandoned, and they're usually found asking, did you think about it this way? Okay, that was the 9 Enneagram types. And something really cool about determining what type you are is it doesn't really end there. There's more that you can learn about your personality type and kind of who you are. Once you determine your type, you can also determine which wing you are. And you can kind of do this in the same way. So wings of the Enneagram are on either side of your number. So for example, I am an Enneagram type 3. So I could either have a 2 wing or a 4 wing. And this is just different depending on the person. So my core still is a type 3, but my wing that I found that I have is a 4. So I would be a 3 wing 4. And this just means that although my core is a 3, I have 4 tendencies, or someone that's a 3 wing 2 would mainly be a 3, but have kind of tendencies to the values and desires and fears of an Enneagram 2. Another example of the wings is, say you are an Enneagram 7. You like to have a lot of fun. You enjoy just going with the flow and being entertained, having a positive outlook on life, and just having a good time. So say you're a 7 and you're trying to decide which wing you are. You could have a wing 6, which is you have kind of a more hesitant outlook on life. You might be really into preparedness. You might be kind of nervous about what other things could go wrong. Or you could look at the wing 8, who is confrontational. They are bold. They're not afraid to be themselves and share their opinions. So you can kind of look at the wings on either side of your Enneagram number to figure out which wing sounds more like you. And it's kind of cool that there is a mixture of kind of values and traits that each number has, that really everyone has at least a little bit of every number 1 through 9 in them. But there usually is this core desire or core trait that you resonate with. I found this post on Enneagram Ashton's Instagram page, and it kind of describes each type in a funny way. So this post that I found says, "First day back to work after the holiday by Enneagram type." So type 1 going back to work after the holiday is making sure all remnants of the office decorations are put away and organized. A type 2 going back to work is checking in with your coworkers to see if they need anything. Type 3 is back to work. I've been working the whole time. Type 4 is spending the day thinking about all of the wonderful memories that were created. Type 5 is sit back and listen to coworkers share about their holiday. Type 6 is feeling super anxious about going back. Type 7 is running from office to office to share every detail about their holiday. Type 8 is creating deadlines and making sure people know what to do now that they are back. Type 9 is hoping that the holiday cheer lasts throughout the year. Another post is watching football for each Enneagram type. Type 1, who has the time to sit down and watch football? Type 2 is feeling bad for the players who get injured and the teams that lose. Type 3 is making bets with coworkers and friends. Type 4 is no one else likes the same team as you do. Type 5 is silence. Type 6 is you've been cheering for the same team since 1990, despite the fact that they always let you down. Type 7 is definitely with friends, either at your house or theirs. Type 8 is screaming at the TV. And type 9 is wishing both teams could win. This one is going to the beach for each Enneagram type. Type 1 is packed days in advance. Type 2 is bringing back souvenirs for everyone. Type 3 is making sure you have the cutest swimsuit. Type 4 is your favorite part is the sunset and listening to the waves. Type 5 is researching the best places to eat. Type 6 is worried about getting burnt. Type 7 is surfing, playing in the sand, wakeboarding, and all activities. Type 8 is calling the shots on the vacation plans. And type 9 is diving into a good book. Okay, we got 2 more here. These are pretty good. Nutrition philosophy by Enneagram type. Type 1 follows the meal plan with precision, measuring everything to the ounce. Type 2 shows up with snacks and recipe cards for everyone. Type 3 must hit macros perfectly. Failure is not an option. Type 4 decides she's filling blueberry pancakes. Nothing else will satisfy. Type 5 spends 3 hours researching the best meal delivery service, calculating cost per calorie. Type 6 eats sustainably and from the earth. Type 7 life's too short, eat what you want. Type 8 eats goals for breakfast, motivates everyone around them to join their 30-day challenge. Type 9 I don't care what we eat, you pick. And to finish it off, we have driving from each Enneagram type. Type 1 car is extremely clean. Type 2 allows people to turn in front of them. Type 3 thinks they're the best driver. That's me. I refuse to admit that I am not the best driver. I say that I am, but probably not the best. Hate to admit it. Type 4 has the perfect playlist created. Type 5 knows every back road and the best way to get places, so they think. Type 6 is stressed out at any indication of traffic. Type 7 going back and forth between talking on the phone and singing along to music. Type 8 someone cutting you off is unforgivable. I got a little bit of that. Type 9 calm, cool, and collected. I wish I could say I had a little bit of type 9 in me, but I don't think I really have any. I wish I did. Type 9s are great. My sister Hallie has a little bit of 9 in her. She's a type 1, and she is very organized and really likes order and people following the rules. She's the one who really got me into Enneagrams. She knows a lot about it and kind of is the one who first started teaching me about all of it. And so it's really interesting to talk about it with her. But yeah, she's a type 1, and she says that she has a little bit of a wing 2. She's not quite sure which wing she is. She thinks that she has some wing 2 in her, and then she also thinks that she has some wing 9 as well. So a wing 2 is the type that is always thinking about other people. They're really selfless, and they are wanting to help people feel loved and comfortable and like they're important, and doing kind gestures for them. And then type 9s are pretty similar in that way. Type 9s are really conscious of other people's feelings, but they don't want to cause any conflict. So really they're the peacemakers. They want to avoid conflict and kind of make sure that everyone is doing okay. A good example of a type 5 is my husband Adam. He is really into reading and researching and learning everything he can about subject. So he really likes to do lots of research and learn about different topics that he's interested in or things that he might need to know. He likes to read and study and kind of keep to himself. An example of a type 7 is my dad. He is very energetic, very enthusiastic. He has a positive outlook on life, and he doesn't want to talk or think about feelings at all. He just wants to have fun and enjoy life. He wants to kind of live in the moment and is just curious. And finally, I'll just talk a bit about how I knew I was a type 3. So when reading the descriptions about how type 3s are really driven by success, they're achievers, they think that their value comes from being successful or being respected, I thought that really sounded like me. I feel that I've always been kind of driven by success and thought that my value comes from how successful I am. And of course, I've heard that that's not the case. But oftentimes in my mind, that's really the way that I feel. It's always been really important to me to be successful in whatever terms that is. In every aspect of my life, I just feel like I have always thought I needed to be perfect at everything, that I needed to be successful, and that's just because of who I am. That's just something about my personality. So because deep down a 3, which is me, thinks that their value comes from how successful they are, they're always worried about what people think about them. And I think that's so true about myself. I find myself being so worried and caught up in what other people might be thinking about me, if they're, noticing what I'm doing or how I'm perceived. I really care about how I'm perceived, and I wish that I didn't. And that's something, obviously, that I need to work on, and that 3s in general are kind of needing to grow towards. So yeah, I definitely notice that I worry about how I appear and how other people see me. And a 3's core is, to be respected. And I think that's probably the thing that drives me the most. So yeah, obviously a growth point for me and for a 3 would be realizing that my worth and my value doesn't come from my successes, and also realizing that I'm not defined by how many things I'm recognized for. So if that sounds like you, then you might be a 3 also. One habit that 3s often have is making a to-do list every day and having to check everything off that list. And if you don't check everything off the list, then you feel really guilty. And I definitely experienced this because 3s are driven by success. They feel the need to be constantly accomplishing tasks and be constantly working. So this is definitely something that I find myself doing. I am pretty obsessed with making to-do lists and checking everything off. And I've definitely experienced that when I don't cross everything off my list that I need to do that day, then I feel really guilty, and I feel like I wasn't productive that day. And that's really hard for me to get over. If you find yourself feeling guilty about taking breaks, then you might be a 3. Something important that 3s need to remember is that true friends and people that love you the most care about who you are and not what you have accomplished, and also that it's okay to slow down. I mentioned wings a little bit earlier, and the way that I figured out that I was a 3 wing 4 is because I do notice that I tend to be really nostalgic. I like to reminisce. I care about aesthetic of things, not everything, but there are some things that I notice I really care about. I also notice that I'm very aware of my feelings, sometimes overly aware to a fault. And there are times that I notice that I am in my feelings a little bit more than other people. So my core type is a 3 because I'm driven by accomplishing tasks, and I feel guilty if I don't check everything off my to-do list. And I have a wing 4, which is one side, right? If you're a 3, you could be a wing 4 or wing 2. So I feel that I'm more of a wing 4 because I lean towards the way of noticing and feeling my feelings and being into aesthetic and reminiscing and being nostalgic and kind of being individualistic. So that is why I think I am a 3 wing 4. Learning about the Enneagram and what my type is and also what other people's types are really, I feel like, help me get to know them better. It's cool to learn the types and hear what someone's type is, and then kind of feel like you can connect with them on a different level, and sometimes even a deeper level the Enneagram totally helped me realize that there are other people like me. And so it's kind of exciting once you learn these things about yourself. It's fun to find people who are similar to you, that have similar desires and fears and characteristics. And it's fun to kind of talk about that. It's also helped me to realize things about myself that I hadn't noticed before. So, for example, 3s are also obsessed with how to make things more efficient, and I hadn't noticed that about myself until I learned more about the Enneagram. So it's so true, though. Now looking back, and kind of day to day, I see that the tasks that I'm trying to do and everything that I'm trying to check off my list, I am constantly wondering and thinking about how I could be more efficient, how I can cross off this task faster than I would be able to if I did it another way. And I just kind of find that funny because I definitely do have a hard time slowing down. And I also find myself not being very patient with people who do things a different way than I would because it's not as efficient. And it's kind of funny. It's funny to joke about and laugh about because that's totally a fault of mine. Like, if you're going to get the job done, who cares how you do it? But deep down inside, that's really my first reaction. Is in my head I'm thinking, you could do that so much faster if you just do this, and then you could cross it off your list and move to the next thing. So once you figure out what your type is, you can talk to your friends, family members, and see what type they are, and you can kind of compare and contrast, talk about the funny parts of every type. You can see if maybe you have a friend or a family member that is the same type as you. Since my sister and I are so excited about the Enneagram, we've kind of figured out and talked with all of our family members and figured out what type they are. And it's fun to see that there are similarities between them. So my sister and my mom, they're the same type. My youngest brother is totally his own type. My dad's totally his own type. And then my other brother and I actually are the same type and just show them in different ways. So it's really interesting to figure out if find out if you're the only type in your family or if you happen to be the same type as people in your family. And same with your friends. I was talking to one of my good friends in my last semester of school. We had a group of us get together, and she and I figured out that we both knew about the Enneagram, and we got so excited, and we were just laughing and talking about our types. We were talking about each of the friends that were in the group with us, and a lot of them hadn't heard about the types before, and we were kind of telling them, and they were guessing what each of their own types might be, and it was just super fun. I think it's just a good, fun conversation topic. So if you can't tell, I'm a fan of the Enneagram. And that is all I have to say about it for now. So I hope some of those examples maybe helped you figure out what your type is, or maybe some of those lists from Enneagram Ashton on Instagram. I would love to hear about what you think your type is. I am interested to find out how you kind of figured out what your type is. So definitely message me on Instagram and let me know what type you are, and if you want to hear more information or in-depth kind of details about each of the types, I would love to do kind of a more in-depth episode with my sister Hallie. Actually, I'd love to have her on the podcast, and the two of us can kind of talk about what we've learned. We can talk more about wings and determining your type, kind of how you come into your type. There are things connected with the types. There are subtypes, there's childhood trauma, and just different details along with each of the types that explain a little bit more of how that core desire came to be. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thank you for listening. I will have new episodes posted every Monday. And again, you can message me on Instagram if you have more episode requests or questions for me. Thanks for listening to Traffic Jam. And this week, don't worry, you're not the only one who eats from the bulk candy at Winco. Bye.